This show is sponsored by Audible. Fans of It Matters can get a 30-day free trial of Audible Premium Plus. Stay tuned for details. Hello, and welcome to It Matters How We Treat One Another, the social science show. I'm your host, Matthew David Vasco. I'm genuinely glad you're here today. If you subscribe to this show on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform, then thank you. We are grateful for each and every one of our subscribers. We're also thankful for our patrons on Patreon. Your support helps to make this episode possible. This episode, I'll be speaking with therapist and friend of the show, Erin Wiley, about what we all can do for ourselves and others when people are feeling overwhelmed about the state of the world. But first, our inspiring news. If inspiring things are happening in your neck of the woods, then please send us a direct message on one of our social media accounts and let us know. You can find us by our show name on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. This time, our inspiring news comes from goodnewsnetwork.org. The headline reads, quote, "From 10% to 47%, cardiac survival rates surge in Texas City that's empowering citizens to save lives." End quote. The article begins, quote, "Over the past 2 years, the city of McKinney, Texas, has significantly improved cardiac arrest survival rates through a coordinated effort between its fire and police departments, and now its citizens. 2 years ago, if a heart stopped in McKinney, your chances of surviving were just 10%, the same in many U.S. cities. Today, that survival rate has skyrocketed to 47%, thanks to an unprecedented partnership between the McKinney Fire Department and the McKinney Police Department. Officials say the program is modeled in part after practices used in Seattle, and so far, McKinney's success rate has risen way above the national average of 30%. And is closing in on Seattle's leading survival rate of 50%. The city, 30 miles north of Dallas, is now expanding that life-saving work to residents by placing automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, directly into neighborhoods, with the goal of reducing response time citywide. The initiative will make McKinney one of the nation's first 4-minute cities, where an automated external defibrillator is never more than 4 minutes away from any cardiac event." End quote. To get to where they are now, McKinney put 80 AEDs into city vehicles of all kinds. To expand the program, they're adding another 200 AEDs to neighborhoods and training residents on how to use them. It's inspiring to see that a city has been able to save far more lives with the help of automated external defibrillators, or AEDs. Perhaps your city could follow their lead. Again, if you know of inspiring things happening in your area, then please DM us on our socials and let us know. Thanks. Up next is our feature segment. But first, this show is sponsored by Audible. You probably already know that Audible is an outstanding source for audiobooks, but did you know that Audible is also an amazing resource for guided wellness? It's true, and fans of our show can get a free month of Audible Premium Plus just by clicking the link in our episode description or by visiting the podcast page at matthewvasco.com. Again, that's a free month of Audible Premium Plus by clicking the link in our episode description or by visiting matthewvasco.com and clicking podcast. And now our feature segment. My guest today is Erin Wiley. Erin is a licensed therapist in Ohio and Florida and leads a team of 40 therapists in their mission to change people's families and lives by improving their emotional well-being. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being back on the show. I'm so excited to have you. You're like what they call a friend of the show now. Friend of the show, Erin Wiley, ladies and gentlemen.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, great to have you back again, and great to be working with my old college buddies.
That's right.
Yeah, since I had you on, I had Michael Cosette on. Remember Michael?
Michael and I talk. Yes, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. So small world, getting
right?
smaller all the time.
Michael and I knew each other from St. Thomas More Parish at BGSU, and I would not have guessed that we would both end up being therapists someday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was not either of our plans.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I was a communications major with a psychology minor. Yeah. And I've just always, I did the acting thing for a while, and then I've always retained my interests in psychology and the social sciences. Mm-hmm. And I just really felt called to do this show, in this crazy, hectic world we live in. How do we maintain our relationships and create real meaningful connection, So, yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, well, let's just dive right into it then, because let's be honest, the state of the world is a little chaotic these days, and a lot of people are struggling. I talk to them, and just the regular old greeting of "how you doing," produces all kinds of reactions you wouldn't expect nowadays, right? It just seems like people are like, not well.
Yeah, no, I think you're
not
right.
well.
I do think people are struggling more now than ever before. And maybe we think that because we're living during this time, but especially when you consider the larger climate of the entire world and the fact that we have access constantly to the news and it's running 24/7. So we all know every bad thing that's happening all day. I do think it is very overwhelming. And if you tend to be a sensitive person, an empath, if you're someone who really feels pulled toward social justice, then I think those kind of things hit you even more deeply.
I absolutely agree with you. I just find that people who care about people in general seem to be the ones who are struggling the hardest these days.
Well, yeah, and I think some people, are just so empathetic and their heart is so open. And so it's almost like they have an antenna up and they pick up on the pain of other people and they experience it too.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of examine that a little bit. What would you say to someone who's feeling overwhelmed by the state of the world right now?
I think the most important thing, whether you're doing this for yourself or for someone else, whether you feel overwhelmed or you're talking with someone who feels overwhelmed, is to just sit in a moment of validation and let people know that it makes a lot of sense, right? I think historically, as humans, we've become more emotionally intelligent and evolved. And so maybe folks a few, decades older than us or a generation or two older than us tended to be a little more reactive and uncomfortable with difficult emotions, which I think translates to, if you said to someone, "How are you doing?" and they said, "I don't know, I'm not great. The world's really difficult right now," they would say, "Well, put a smile on your face. The sun is out, right? You're still alive." Or, "Is it really that bad? You still have a job and your family's healthy." Like, people want to dismiss other people's concern and worry and sadness and pain because it makes them uncomfortable and they don't want that around them. So I think the first thing that any of us can do is, anytime someone comes to us with a feeling, an emotion, a concern, is to take a beat and just say, yeah, yep, that makes so much sense. Because to me, that's one of the kindest, most base level human skills that we have to share with each other, which is taking a moment to say, I hear what you said, I'm taking it in, and I'm validating that it makes a lot of sense what you're experiencing. And that's that very basic but truly profound moment of feeling heard and seen that I think is really important.
And that's genuine connection, right? I mean, when you listen to people like Brene Brown, they say it's really about connection, right? But about a lot having to do with our well-being and just our state of feeling loved and feeling like we're maybe living our best lives has to do with human connection. And when we slow down and really connect with each other, right, we're probably helping ourselves and the person we're talking to be a little better, do a little better, feel a little more.
Sure. And I think you're right, Matt. It comes down to slowing down, and everyone's running a million miles a minute, trying to get things done. And that's the way the world is structured now. There's a lot to do, family things, work things, taking care of yourself. But I really do think there's something about if you can be cognizant of the fact that when you're face to face, sharing a moment with someone, that you really take a beat, if you have it in you, to slow your nervous system down and just offer a presence to someone, that's really significant. And I will say, on top of your idea of connection being so important with other people, I really believe, the longer I've been doing my own work, connection with yourself, which, if anyone listening is like, that sounds cliche, or what do you even mean? Then you definitely need to lean into that work, because it's a whole thing to really spend time with yourself. And I don't mean like, oh, you're going to read a book. I mean truly sitting, not meditating and seeking to get rid of anything in your head, being truly present to what's happening in your personhood, in your experience, psychologically, physically, emotionally, with your nervous system, maybe even extra sensory, like what are you just picking up on as a human? What are you noticing and experiencing? And making sure that you are validating yourself and caring for yourself and listening to yourself and advocating for the things that you need, and making sure that you're tending to the things that keep you healthy, is also a form of connection that I think a lot of us do not lean into, but is revolutionary, because doing that inner work makes us more available for other people too.
Oh, so true, right? I mean, we share a lot of quotes and things on our Facebook page. And one that I come across a lot when I'm searching for great things to share is this idea of, you've got to take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of others, right? It seems like what you're saying really drills right down into that, right? You've got to connect with yourself, see how you're doing in order to really connect with others and be able to take care of them or provide them whatever help they need.
For sure.
Something you said struck me too, which is, it seems like the longer I do this show, the more I learn that we tend to carry things in our bodies a lot. These somatic things are becoming something we're talking about more in the psychological world all the time, right? Like sitting with yourself can be a chance to check in with your body and find places of tension and say, what is that? What am I carrying around? What am I holding on to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I really love the idea of taking time, whatever, typically it's morning or evening, but whenever you can carve out time for yourself and being with yourself. But I love incorporating movement into that, because I think sitting still can be difficult. If you're not practiced at it, it can be difficult. It can feel boring. But I also believe if you put on some nice soothing music, maybe something even like with a primitive tribal beat, because I think we all have that in our collective unconscious, to be able to move, even if you're just swaying, any movement in your body, because then as soon as you start moving, you can pay attention to what joints are hurting. Where are you carrying tension? Is your body trying to tell you something right now? What signals are you picking up, and what is your body telling you it needs based off of your perception from moving it? I think that's so impactful. It can make such a difference, in so few people take the time to do it. It's just something we don't talk about enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're talking about it more.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the larger world and these things that we're constantly getting bombarded with by the news, is anxiety about things happening in the larger world a diagnosable psychological disorder?
I mean, first, I would say you're talking to someone who does not believe in pathologizing people or behavior. I think any reaction that we have to any event makes sense. To me, if we're looking at the DSM to diagnose someone, it's almost always for insurance purposes, to get them to pay up on the insurance we're investing for our health and pay for therapy sessions. I do think sometimes it's helpful if someone's considering medication to kind of drill down on what symptoms you're experiencing and see if they kind of cluster into something we have labeled or named. But if we're talking pathology, we could say that someone's anxiety, if it's extreme, if you're having trouble getting out of bed, if you can't function at work, if you can't function at school, if your relationships are falling apart, if you're having panic attacks, if you're having really big manifestations of your anxiety that are interfering in big ways in major parts of your life on a consistent basis, then it would probably be diagnosable at that point.
I see. I see. So it's really about how much it's interfering with your day-to-day life.
That's right. Yep. Because we all have a window of tolerance, how much we can handle that's difficult. And for some people, their window of tolerance is really small, but especially when we get stressed out or things are difficult in our life, we tend to be more irritable or upset easily. And hopefully, as we age and mature and grow in skills and health, we can expand our window of tolerance. But I think that's a good way to look at, are you tolerating it? Can you handle it? Or are you, alcohol's the only way I can function at night and sleep? Or if I watch too much TV on the news, I just completely shut down and can't get any laundry done. I'm not cooking for my family. Like if we're having extreme hyper arousal, being really wound up, or hypo arousal, completely shutting down in ways that, affect major areas of your life, then that would be, I think, a concern.
Now, I read recently that we're not really designed as human beings to be inundated with all of this world news all the time. That, right, we're tribal by nature. We tend to care about those who are close to us. This is kind of the way we've evolved. And we're not really designed for this modern world where we're constantly being overwhelmed with all of these big things happening that are outside of our control. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely 100% agree. I figured we would end up talking about this today. It just isn't within the normal scope of human experience to be able to handle the fact that there's a flood somewhere, and then people are molested somewhere, and there's bombs going off somewhere, and there's torture somewhere. And I mean, that's the news. It's sensational, and it's trying to tell us the big stories. And people pay attention to things that cause fear because that's how we're wired. Right, we're not supposed to know every awful thing that happens in every corner of the world at every minute of the day. It's too much for people. I think, at least what research is saying, social science research, is like your tribe would normally be about 200 people. So you have you, parents, siblings, cousin, aunts, uncles, neighbors, and that's the amount of people that you can really have relationship with. And beyond that, they're just people the contacts. But for us to experience, especially again, sensitive people, and see and relive the pain and trauma and neglect and abuse of people murder. I mean, it is too overwhelming to the nervous system. I think it behooves people to not watch too much television, not watch too much of the news. We're all going to hear what's happening and you're going to catch it at some point, but for sure not having the TV running constantly, not watching every news program, not watching hours of it. It is just too much.
That is something that I've recommended to people in some of my speaking work that I've done, is to actually consume the news in small chunks. Try to break it up in your day a little bit. And I often say, because this is what I have found works for me and my family, is not to try to comprehend too much of what's happening in the larger world right before bedtime.
Oh,
You know,
right.
I find if I watch the news, then go to bed, all I'm thinking about is what I was taking in right before I laid down, right? I almost need something completely frivolous,
Yes.
that last hour, half hour before bedtime, just to
Yes.
get my mind off the worries of the world, right?
Yeah, it's too much to put yourself to sleep with that kind of information. I agree. I like Sudoku. It puts me to sleep.
Oh, there you
But
go.
if I'm gonna consume news, I even tend to not want to see anything that's visual as far as TV. I mean, all the time news reporters will say this next clip is likely going to be very disturbing, and I think, why are you showing it? Yes, for some people it feels really important to witness, and I appreciate that. But I have found reading what happened is so much more tolerable for my nervous system. For years and years that this has been happening, that everyone has a camera, anytime they're like, this is going to be hard to watch, I shut the TV off. I cannot watch someone be beaten, murdered, abused. It's not good for me. I don't tolerate that well. But if I do want to be present to the reality of what's happening and not bury my head in the sand, I find that reading online news is safer for my nervous system.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely empathize with what you're saying there.
And I think
I
there's
have
a
found,
concern. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I found my digital subscription to a couple of news outlets has
Yeah.
been really good for me,
Sure.
because there's something about the way you digest the news when you're reading it that's just a little slower pace,
Yes.
and you can, break it up into 5-10 minute chunks,
Sure.
and it's doesn't hit my nervous system quite as hard.
Yeah, well, and you've got some distance between it's something that happened and you're reading a description, as opposed to watching people screaming and bleeding and things that are really hard for a human to experience. I think it gives you a little bit of healthy space. So I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's take that same analogy or situation of a person feeling overwhelmed by the state of the world. And what if they were in your office and they were saying, what I feel is I really feel called to take action on this. I feel like I've got to do something. What would be your advice to them at that point?
The first thing I would advise someone to do is to figure out why they feel that way. Sometimes I think if we've experienced our own trauma in our life and not worked on our own healing, I like to say, the story I tell Matt is, for the longest time when I became a therapist, I felt like I was tapping into something in the world of children are in pain, kids don't do great if there's a lot of family disturbance in the family. And if I can help parents have healthier marriages, I can help families and children be happier and healthier. And I felt like I was hearing from the world, like, help us, our marriages, like the families, we need help. And I was like, I'm going to answer that call. I feel the call to do it. And at some point I realized it was like, oh, the call is coming from inside the house. That's some of my unhealed trauma about me being like, where are the protectors? Where are the adults? I'm struggling. Is no one seeing me? Is no one going to help my family? Why is no one helping my family? And so I came to realize that a lot of my maybe even codependent healer energy to fix and heal people was to calm myself down because I had unhealed stuff. So I would first explore what's happening inside you that leads you to believe that. And what does it feel like to experience that emotionally? What does it feel like to experience that physically? Like, what are you noticing about your experience that says you need to rescue, help, or save anyone? I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I'd really want to check first and see, where is it coming from? And do you need to do some tending to yourself first, or simultaneously, to make sure that people are reaching out to help people in an agendaless fashion. It's not so I can calm down, or so I feel like I'm repairing something from my past, or so I'm making up some cosmic loss that's happened, but really just genuinely because I want to offer help, and I think I have specific skills that align with the needs that are happening, and I want to put those together.
I see.
Yeah.
So do your own inner work first.
Yeah, and check in and just check in with your motivations. What's leading you? That way you're moving forward in a healthy way toward helping people, because there's not stuff wrapped up in it that really should be resolved inside yourself.
Now, what if someone's reaction to the state of the world is anger? Does that change
Yeah.
anything?
I mean, first I would validate that and say, I'm mad too. I mean, I think a lot of us are angry. I just watched something today and it was making me a little bonkers. I was saying to my husband, when they do these things on TV and they're having like, federal investigations, and I'm like, why don't people stand up more, and why don't they fight the injustice more, and right, because there's like a parliamentary procedure and things they have to do, and I was like getting mad that they can't fix things faster, or so I think it's so normal to be angry. Yeah, I mean, the most important thing to me is if someone said they were angry, I would validate it, and I would also share that I'm angry too, and then I would spend time trying to find out. Because I do think the more introspective we are and the more we know ourselves, the more we can narrow in on what's important to us, and then is there something we can do to work toward change that feels meaningful and significant for our system. So if someone was angry, I'd be exploring, why does that make you angry? What's frustrating about it? What in your own experience leads you to being angry about one thing that's happening versus another? Do you really feel strong pull toward social justice, toward the abuse of power? Like, is that something that's meaningful to you because you've experienced it? So I'd want to flesh out what's happening again inside, because I think that's really, we're seeing everything through our own lens of our eyes and our trauma and experience. So if someone's really angry or wound up about something, I would just get curious about, what is it about this situation, or what's happening that's leading you to feel this way?
Now, what if they said to you that they felt like, I'm not sure quite how to phrase it, but I want to say, like, what if they said, what I really feel like I need to do is take some kind of action that's really violent. I'm not sure how they would phrase that exactly,
Sure,
but
yeah.
what if they started hinting at they were considering violence as a solution? Then what do you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would totally validate that we all have parts of us. I mean, if you're sitting there and you saw someone seriously injure a child in front of you, you might get violent or aggressive, at least, to push someone away. Like, we all have the capacity to come to action, and I think angry parts, it makes perfect sense. It appeals to our most primitive nature. If someone punches you, many people want to punch them right back. So people wanting to commit violence against others who they think are hurting people makes perfect sense to me. And I think that's another good example of, I don't pathologize that when I'm talking to people. I just validate. It sounds like a part of you would really like to inflict harm on someone. And I think when someone feels heard and seen, they have an opportunity to walk themselves through what's happening. If someone says to you, I want to go to this place and I want to do these awful things because I'm tired of those people, or whatever they're saying, and we say, like, dismiss it. Give me a break. You would never do that. Or, for God's sake, why do you have to be so violent? Or, your talk is so over the top. Or, you need to calm down. That is a lot of really bad energy. You're just shutting someone down, and then they feel unheard. And what they tend to do is come roaring back with more because that part wasn't heard and they're going to make it heard. So to be able to say, it makes perfect sense to me that you'd want to hurt those people. Sometimes I think the same thing, but we are multiple and we have lots of parts of us that think and believe and feel different things. And if it was, therapy and I was concerned, I would certainly assess for danger and if someone's actually planning on it or if it's just a fantasy notion. But I think it's totally within the realm of a healthy, normal human experience to have enough rage that you think, I wish I could hurt that person and shut them up or stop them from killing people. I think that's normal. Talking through it and getting a better understanding and helping someone understand what's happening inside themselves that's leading them to that, and validating and normalizing it, I think is the best way to process it.
And then maybe once they've talked it out a little bit, they'd be less likely to actually take action, right?
Absolutely. And that's in everything. If someone's like, I'm going to quit this job, I'm so mad. Typically people lash out like that because they're looking for someone to say, wow, you sound really angry. They just want to be heard. People want to be heard and have their experiences emotionally validated. So whether it's, I'd like to hurt those people, or I'm going to quit my job, or maybe I'm just going to end this marriage, whatever big things people make as a proclamation that feel scary, overwhelming, shut us down, I think are just people banging a pot and pan to say, hello, I need to be heard and seen. I'm not doing well. Is anyone hearing me? And when we say, wow, you're really upset. And they're like, yeah, I am. Say, it's got to be hard. And they're like, it is. And you're already lending them your calm nervous system and you're bringing them down to yours. And then people start to bring their prefrontal cortex online and they're like, it's just so unfair. And you've just validate that. So for you, watching something that is so unfair and unjust really gets you going. And then you get someone to process through it emotionally, intellectually, and verbally because you're bringing them down to a calm baseline where their brain can function as an adult instead of an emotionally reactive younger part of our brain. And people will start to talk themselves through it once they're heard and say, well, yeah, it's just so unfair. Oh, okay, I hear you. It's unfair. Like, it shouldn't be this way. Oh, so you don't think it should be this? How should it be? Well, people should care for each other and that person's not. So it's upsetting to you that that person doesn't care for someone. How can you care for someone? Because you can't make them care for someone. What can you do, right? And that's bringing it back to our internal locus of control. We can't make anyone do anything, but we can manage ourselves.
And then maybe they talk themselves toward a more positive outlet.
Sure, and maybe not. I mean, I give people full permission to have the full range of human experiences at whatever timeline they need. So if they're like, I'm going to be mad all night, I'm so mad, and I'd say, then you should do that. Go be mad. I mean, people will wear themselves out trying to experience one emotion. For two, I mean, none of us stay angry forever, every minute of every day for decades. And like, that's just not how the brain and mind and heart and soul work. So eventually people will work through or take a pause. But yeah, I think the best way we service others and ourselves is to not have an expectation for how someone should behave, the timeline in which someone should find resolution. I think the more we just open up the experience and say, I'm here for all of it, whatever you need, I can validate it, I can hold space for it, I can create room for it. It's the most freeing way for us to experience ourselves and other people.
I want to back up a little bit and maybe unpack something you said, because it was a little different way of phrasing something that I've heard before. You said, we are multiple. What do you mean when you say that?
Yeah. So it's the fact that we can hold two completely paradoxical beliefs or emotions at the same time, and that they can both be true for us. Like how, if I can think of in couples that I work with, if there's been an infidelity in the relationship and a person says, I hate my spouse, I hate what they did, I despise them, I want to kick them out of my house, I don't want them in my life anymore. And I'm so destroyed, I love them so much, they're my everything, we've been together for however many years, I can't picture my life without them. Even though I'm so angry, I still love them. And people are in such a state of confusion. How can I shouldn't still love him. I should be mad. And I say, well, I think should is a code word for shame. If you say, I am angry and I should be angry and I shouldn't still love someone who hurt me, It's your brain trying to reconcile the confusion of why you feel paradoxically, and you're blaming yourself for doing something that you don't think is right. I think that so many things are happening in our mind all the time, and to recognize that multiple different parts of our brain can think and believe different things at the same time. Once we can accept that multiplicity, and know that I would like to be healthy just as much as I would like to eat 3 donuts for breakfast, then you can hold the fact that there's more than one truth for yourself at the same time. And in accepting that that's how we're wired, is with multiple thoughts, ideas, beliefs, I think there's a little more peace than fighting against each other. When we recognize we're multiple, then we can talk to and interact with multiple parts of ourselves and have conversations and manage and solve a lot of things inside of ourselves, as opposed to fighting them.
You brought up hate. I hate my spouse. What's the therapeutic? That's a very strong emotion. What's the therapeutic perspective on hatred?
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't picked it up so far, like every time anyone brings me anything that's huge, I say yes to it. Yes. I validate your experience, what you feel is normal, and understandable, makes sense. Usually if someone said to me, I hate that person, I would reframe it and say, so a part of you feels a lot of hate for that person. And usually people go, yeah, because, some people, I'm sure you've heard this before. If you can hate someone in your immediate life, not a figure on TV that you've never met, if there's someone in your circle, a parent who's hurt you, someone who physically abused you, a spouse who wronged you, that capacity for hate comes from the fact that you have at some point loved them. Otherwise, they would mean nothing to you. So if we're talking about those intimate relationships and someone says, I hate that person, I would say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So a part of you feels a ton of hate. That's a big emotion, huh? And so I would validate it. Hate is just an extreme expression of loss and sadness and overwhelm and powerlessness. It's just one of the big protective parts of us that comes up and says, I'm going to fight because we have been injured or ignored or hurt or dismissed. So hatred is a big protective part of the human psyche that seeks to make sure that people don't hurt us again. It's defensive. It makes a lot of sense.
What about that person on TV, though? What about that the other? Let's talk about the other, right? Yeah. How does that...
I would say, I do think to feel like I don't know, I guess maybe people would experience it differently. I feel like to truly hate a person, you have to know them. If you watch a jerk on TV say mean things, okay, yes, you hate him because he's who he is and he keeps saying bad and mean things. I appreciate feeling like I hate that guy. But the truth is, I don't know them. I hate what they say. I hate how they show up in the world. I hate how they act. I hate what they stand for. Do I hate them? I don't know them. I've often said to people, and I guess it depends how regulated you are, but I say, think of the people who, whether it is a spouse or some dictator on TV, and you say yeah, I hate them. And I say, if they fell in front of you right now and were having a heart attack, would you walk out of the room? And most human response is you don't walk away from a human who's dying in front of you. You seek to be helpful. I do appreciate that people sometimes are like, good. But that's because if they're stuck in the hate and they're wound up, they think, good. But the truth is, people are wired to help people. Hatred is a big emotion that comes and protects us. But if we can regulate, we can recognize that those feelings of hate are feelings of feeling defensive of other people, experiencing a powerlessness and having a rage around it. So it's a big emotion, but it's still important.
Do you ever get clients who are struggling with the feelings they're carrying around for people they don't know or groups they don't know, who want to try to get over their own, say, intolerance, bigotry, or racism?
I have some strong opinions on this. I mean, if we look at the social science research, and this is not going to be every single person, but if we're looking at, especially America, I guess any country, that politics tend to be more liberal and progressive or more conservative, right? There's a spectrum of where people fall depending on the issue on that scale. It seems that people who tend to be more conservative and staunch in sticking to old beliefs tend to be way more reactive to fear. And so that's a fear-based response to say, no, we're not changing. That makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't want that to happen. Those types of people tend to rarely come to therapy in my experience. I just don't see as many people like that. When we're doing the 5-factor personality test, the one thing that people who tend to be what we would call progressive heavily have as a personality trait is open-mindedness and ability to tolerate lots of different new experiences. So if you're wired for fear and you just have a nervous system that's scared and anxious a lot, you don't have a huge appreciation for anything could be different at any time and all different people can come or go or do what they want. That would be the antithesis of how you'd feel. So I tend in general to find that people who are open-minded and curious and not afraid are the types of people who come in and want to know more and want to question things. So if someone is stuck in a rigid belief about women should do this, or this is how that nationality of people are, I do not, in my experience as a therapist, have those types of people come in and say, I feel like I'm kind of bigoted and I want to understand it better. They're clinging to it because it serves them. They have no desire to get rid of it. On the other perspective, you have people who tend to say, again, like maybe more on a more open-minded side, my parents believe something so different than me and it makes me so angry. I need to figure out how I can resolve my frustration to beliefs that they have that don't align with mine, maybe even clash heavily with mine, but I want to find a way that I can tolerate that so I can have relationships with people who believe differently than me. But in general, right now in America, it seems like a majority of people don't have an interest in listening to people who have very different beliefs than them. And I think that's a topic for another podcast of how social media is divisive on purpose and that there's algorithms that seek to divide our country, and that may be coming from other outside influences that benefit from us being a divided nation. But that's a whole nother topic. So no, I rarely have people come in and say, I think I have a lot of racist beliefs and I want to change that. Because if they do, they're holding them because they're beneficial and helpful. One time I had not even a client, but it was a friend of my mother's, so an older woman in her 70s, call me and say, you need to help me figure out how I'm going to handle going to a party where my grandchild's going to be, and now apparently they're saying they're a different gender. And I don't know what to do. And those are great moments for a therapist where you can say, oh, right, I have an opportunity to hear their concerns and then present on a little platter with no forcing it down their throat, maybe how it could be seen differently, and then see what they think about that and find out why it's hard for them to consider a new truth or reality. And why does it make us uncomfortable to see things differently? And that ended up being a really beautiful experience because I was able to help someone who had a blind spot and a belief from growing up that something should be a certain way, and consider, what if we're wrong? And what if it doesn't matter? And what if the most important thing is just loving someone, even if you don't understand them? So that felt like a good therapeutic win, because she messaged me the next day and said, what you said was so helpful. I was able to just focus on who they are and not concentrate on how they're presenting, and just let them know I love them. Those are those wins where you just think, oh, maybe we are changing the world one person at a time.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good story to end on. That gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah.
I suppose it's best as a therapist when people come to you wanting to change, seeking change, right?
It is. And that's okay. This is a great point. Recently, I was talking with one of my therapists who's a newer, younger therapist, and they said, you know what's really frustrating? People who don't want to change. And I said, tell me more. And because I'm thinking that's not true. If you come to therapy, you want to change. And they said, well, they just cling to their depression and they say, nothing ever works. I've tried working out. I'm still sad. No one really understands me. So I hear, okay, this person has a really strong victim martyr complex that they're holding on to. And so I said to this therapist, so it sounds like if we step back and look at it, a part of them does want to change because they keep coming and seeing you every 2 weeks. And a part of them, for whatever reason, is scared and really invested in holding on to the belief system, or like they're getting some benefit from being depressed, living in that space. Maybe no one will expect anything of them. Maybe they can resource a lot of sympathy and empathy from other people. Do they not want to change? I don't know if that's true. So I think anyone who shows up in therapy does want to change. It's just sometimes difficult to change. And parts of us might fight change. But I do think people tend toward wanting to be whole, happy, and healthy, even if that means changing.
Yeah. Well, that does give me hope. It does give me hope, you know? I tend to really admire people who want to move away from their own, say, fear and, how do I want to say it? Like, I guess maybe fear of the other, fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of admiration for people who, realize that, maybe that's not the healthiest perspective. You know?
Yeah, like recognizing their own bias.
Yeah, and want to move past it or like I say, change,
Absolutely. Well, and I think that starts with curiosity. If you can be self-aware enough to go, why did that bother me? Or why do I think that person is whatever I think they are? And really allowing yourself to have time and space to consider it without judging yourself, just experiencing it. To me, that's like the first step of moving toward changing.
Yeah. Well, why don't we try to wrap it up with the Feel Good 5? How does that sound?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So, of course, you've been on the show before, and you were one of the first guests that we did the original Feel Good 5 with, and now we're having you back. So I thought, well, we can't ask you the same questions over again because we already know your answers to those questions. So I came up with a whole new Feel Good 5 for you. Okay.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. 5 rapid fire questions
All right.
to help give our audience a little uplift. What is something you love about life?
I love waking up every morning and knowing it's a whole day in which I could get something done that could be amazing. So I love the possibility that every day brings.
Nice. What's one thing you wouldn't want to live without?
My husband. I mean, I might say chocolate, but yes, my husband and I have said before, if we could have one wish, or at least I don't want to speak on behalf of him, I'm like, let's go with the same second. Then I don't have to spend any time without him.
Oh my gosh, my wife and I say the exact same thing.
I know, right? Like if you've got a great partnership, you don't want to spend time apart.
I'm like, I do not want to outlive you. You cannot die first.
My husband always says, I'm going to get to wherever we're headed, and you need to give me some space. Give me some time alone. Okay, because give me just wait a little. Give me some time.
Who do you look up to?
I really admire people. Honestly, I really admire people who have different strengths than me, because my own strengths, I mean, I know them and I play from them. So I admire people and look up to people who are like really organized, really methodical. Maybe also because I see them as someone who I can work with to achieve more. So I love people who are really organized and really stable and grounded. I think those kind of people are amazing.
Right on. What's your superpower?
I'm relentless. I don't know if it's always a good thing, but it means I pretty much get anything done that I set my mind to, even if it takes me years to get it done. When I know what I want and what I know what's best for my community or my employees, like I will make it happen. It's just a matter of how long it will take.
Fantastic. They say that's one of the biggest predictors of success.
Yeah.
And do you have a motto? And if so, what is it?
I would say that my motto is probably love yourself and love others. Like that's the power, right? Like if you can spend time with yourself and know yourself and care for yourself, then you've just like supercharged your health so that you can also tend to others from a place of really like loving awareness and kindness. Because if you love yourself first, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it's true. If you can learn to live with whatever brokenness or shame you have carried and absolve yourself and love yourself into a greater place of healing, you are like so ready to really love the world without expecting anything in return.
That's beautiful. What a wonderful perspective for a therapist to have.
Yeah, it's been one of the most beautiful things about being a therapist is that in being open-minded and loving so many people, no matter what, in air quotes, horrific things they tell me they've done in their life, and me being able to be like, well, you're human and humans make mistakes. I found I was able to offer myself a lot more grace to say, oh, well, if you can tolerate their imperfections and think they're wonderful despite whatever foolish choices they may believe they've made, like, are we not all worthy of loving despite our mistakes and silly choices? And I think all people are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Totally off topic, totally out of left field.
Yes.
But I just got to ask, do
Yeah.
you and your colleagues watch Shrinking on Apple TV?
I watched a couple episodes and then I was like, this is ridiculous. But it's really, I mean, it's how I would like to behave. Those are the things I want to do. I want to go to people's houses and I want to help them and I want to fix their problems. But yeah, we would all lose our licenses, so we don't. And it wouldn't even be remotely healthy for like our emotional lives or our family to not have boundaries. So I watched a little, but yeah, no, I think it's probably like ER doctors don't watch, ER and Grey's Anatomy and The Pit. Like little tolerance for when a TV show portrays your professional life. You're like, it's silly.
All right. Okay. An honest answer from a therapist about Shrinking. There it is. Yeah, I find it very entertaining. It's funny. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But the main character, Jimmy, is just a mess. He's just a mess.
Right. Yeah. And really, I mean, I think more than anyone in the world, if you're a therapist, like you have a huge responsibility to work on being as healthy emotionally, intellectually, psychologically as you can be, because you're like a standard bearer for other people, hopefully. So, yeah, I mean, that probably drives the point home even more, which is therapists who are super unhealthy are maybe not really great therapists. They need to work on themselves first so that they can help take care of other people.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, thank you so much, Erin. It's a pleasure having you on the show again, and do come back again in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always nice to talk about interesting topics.
This brings us to the end of this episode of It Matters How We Treat One Another. Thank you to our guest, Erin Wiley. You can learn more about her and her practice at willowcenter.com. That's WILLOWCENTER.com. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Please subscribe to keep up with all of our episodes, and you can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/itmatterspatrons. That's patreon.com/itmatterspatrons. For less than a venti iced caramel macchiato upside down at your favorite coffee chain each month, you too can be an It Matters patron and help make our show happen. You can also support us by shopping our Etsy store at etsy.com/shop/itmattersmerch. There are links in the description. And now you can save 10% off merchandise at It Matters merch by entering the code ITMatters10 at checkout. If you want to help reduce hunger around the globe, then please visit WFP.org and give to the World Food Program. That's WFP.org. They're not sponsors of this show. They're simply a cause we truly believe in, because combating hunger is so vitally important. Your quote of the week is, quote, "Nothing is permanent in this wicked world, not even our troubles." That is from the late, great Charlie Chaplin. And remember, treat everyone with the core 4 values of kindness, respect, empathy, and compassion, and try for love and acceptance whenever possible, because after all, everybody needs love and acceptance. Be well, and much love to you all.